My name is Stuart Barrett, and my work is to do with mental capacity legislation. There was some new law came along a few years ago, and my role is to help people in the borough understand it. Mental capacity is about the ability to take decisions, how we consent to things, how we agree to things. And if we find ourselves in a situation where we can't make those decisions, we're rather vulnerable. So why might we struggle? Well, we might struggle because of dementia, we might struggle because of learning disabilities, we might struggle to make decisions for ourselves because of the temporary effects of alcohol and drugs. All of these things could affect all of us in some way. So this piece of legislation is relevant to us all. And really what I want to emphasise is how we can plan ahead for a situation when we might lack mental capacity to take some decisions for ourselves. You can do something about it now to plan ahead for the future. And what I want to tell you about is something called a lasting power of attorney. Power of attorney is where we authorise somebody else in advance to act for us at some time in the future when we might lose our mental capacity to take decisions. And the government in the last few years has introduced some new arrangements, and they can cover two things: either our finance and our property, which is to do with money and bills and our housing, or covers our health and welfare. That's decisions about entering hospital, what treatment we have in hospital, about our social care, whether we enter an old people's home or whether we have carers coming into our own home. There are these two areas that we can give authority to other people to act on our behalf. Now, how do you do this? Well, you get the forms off the internet. That's the easiest way. They're free. You don't need a solicitor to fill them in if you keep it simple. If you want to have all sorts of fiddly bits, then you might need a solicitor. But basically, it's free. And you choose an attorney, or more than one attorney. That's the person you're appointing to act on your behalf in the future, should you lose capacity. And you can choose an attorney from your family, your friends. You could pay a solicitor. You can have as many as you like. And you can decide whether they act together or whether they act separately in running your affairs. And one of the important things is you need to get the certificate in the middle of the forms filled in. This is a certificate that says you have a rough idea, well, you have a pretty good idea of understanding what you're signing, and that you're not under any duress, not under any pressure. And this certificate can be completed by a professional, a GP or a solicitor, or it simply can be completed by a friend of yours, somebody who knows you well, has known you at least 2 years, and they're saying simply that you do know what you're signing. And then when you've completed the forms, if you want to use them, you have to register them with part of the civil service called the Office of the Public Guardian. This takes some weeks, and also there's a charge. Now, what happens if you decide to do nothing? You make no plans for the future about who should handle your affairs. Well, if you do nothing and you lose your mental capacity, then it's likely that a number of professional staff from hospitals or from social care might take over making decisions about what happens to you. And they have to make decisions that are in your best interests. And there has to be some involvement from your family, but they do not have the full authority to make these decisions because you haven't authorised them in advance. So if your family want to be legally authorised and formally approved to make decisions for you, if you lack the capacity to make the decisions for yourself and you haven't authorised them in advance, then they will have to go to court. That's the Court of Protection, and there's quite a long and detailed procedure, and it's expensive. If you want your family to be involved and fully authorised to make decisions for you for the period when you lack capacity, then we advise you to complete a lasting power of attorney as soon as possible. The council would really encourage all adults within the borough to think about one of these documents. We would like everybody to think very seriously about it. Perhaps you would start to think about your grandparents or your parents, or if you're an older person, you certainly need to start thinking about yourself. All the forms and the guidance that you need are available on the internet. There's a new website that the government has introduced, www.gov.uk. And if you go onto that website and look under the births, deaths, marriages and care section, you will find all the guidance and forms that you need. Thank you.